Oh, I'm sorry. I was taking a nap. I'm so sorry. Not. I don't need to take naps during the day. We don't do that. Dr. D does not take naps during the day. You're not supposed to take naps during the day. What do you mean? I thought taking naps was healthy. Yeah, if you're a baby, not for you. Are you a big baby? But you're not supposed to take naps during the day, man. And you're not supposed to be yawning during the day. That shows that something's wrong. You know, or sometimes you can't get out of bed because you're so freaking tired. Or the person has lunch and they're done. Their day is done. They're super tired, or they get out of work. It's that 5, 6, 7 p.m. and then they can't get to the gym, or when they're at the gym, they just can't work out because they're so crazy tired. So, listen, today we're going to talk about sleep. Sleep is super important. If you can't sleep right, you can't live a proper life. 1/3 of the, well, not 1/3, 30% of the US struggles with sleep. Okay, and it can be primary or secondary. So, primary, you can't get to sleep, secondary, you can't stay asleep. And then what happens? You can't sleep right, so you use sleep medications, right, to get you to sleep, or you self-medicate with alcohol, etc. And we're going to talk about those. And then during the day, you can't stay awake, and then you're using stimulants, all the way from coffee to amphetamines to whatever it is, energy drinks, etc. That is not healthy for you. You have your body on the wired and tired, wired and tired, wired and tired, right? And your adrenal gland can ultimately burn out with that. And if you want to learn a little bit about adrenal glands, and if you haven't yet, watch our other lecture on burnout and adrenal glands, fatigue, and so forth. It's awesome. That one's more geared towards cortisol and life stressors burning out the adrenal gland, but improper sleep, improper restful, restorative delta wave sleep can also over time burn out your adrenal glands. Okay. And today we're going to talk about how to get that system, the whole system. Remember, we always address the system, not a specific thing. I know maybe some of you guys clicked on this lecture because there's a title somewhere that says sleep and so forth, but we always address the system. But today I will highlight areas of this framework that help you with sleep. Understand? Okay, so let's get into it. So, how do we sleep? Usually, when we have a hard time sleeping, right, or we go to the doctor or so forth, and we say, hey, I can't sleep. The doctor says, okay, here's some medication for you. And he'll give you something called usually a benzodiazepine, which that's not supposed to be used for long term, period. That's the way it was designed. You weren't supposed to use that for, I believe, more than 2 weeks. Okay. But people take that indefinitely, heavily used in nursing homes, etc. Um, Not a good idea, in my opinion. Then they'll do something a little lighter, which is like Ambien, for example, which is a partial GABA agonist. What does that mean? Benzodiazepines are GABA agonists. Okay, and those are medications like Ativan and Xanax, and they all the scientific name all end in am. So alprazolam, lorazepam, clonazepam, they all end in am. Okay, but then they have their fancy pharmaceutical names like Ativan, Xanax, whatever, which makes it harder for us to memorize them. But anyhow, different story for another day. Then you have partial GABA agonists, GABA Z1 agonists in this case, which was zolpidem, the scientific name, or Ambien, right? And then you have another little medication that is not doctor prescribed and that sometimes you reach for because you need help with sleep, or maybe you're feeling a little anxious and it's the end of the day and feel a little, you want to get to sleep too and just kind of forget about everything that's going on and do your proverbial woosah. What is it? Alcohol. It's alcohol. So alcohol is also a GABA agonist. So why do I keep talking about GABA? And if you don't know what GABA is, it's a neurotransmitter, which we have a few other lectures on neurotransmitters: serotonin, GABA, dopamine, norepinephrine, all that cool stuff. I love that topic about neurotransmitters. You can go listen to the lecture on that about neurotransmitters. But GABA is a wonderful neurotransmitter that God blessed our mind and body with. And it's very hard to sleep without, or I don't, you can't sleep without activating GABA. That's why virtually all sleep pharmaceutical strategies will reside upon GABA, okay? Activating GABA, okay? Which stands for gamma aminobutyric acid. Long name, forget about the name. So, but as I promised you guys, we would be talking today about a few other strategies that are important to get you to sleep, okay? And this will work for an overwhelmingly majority of people. So it's hard for you to sleep without certain things in your body, like, for example, your hormones. Both male and female testosterone is very important. Estrogen, progesterone for men and women. Obviously, you don't want to have too much estrogen in both men and women, or too little, etc. And yes, guys, we also have a little bit of estrogen. And something that is also very helpful with sleep is progesterone. It's important to for women to also have a little bit of progesterone. I won't get into the gynecological details of why progesterone and so forth is important, etc. And we won't talk about that one today. There's other lectures for that part for women. But men, progesterone shows signs of helping the person to fall asleep, decreasing anxiety, and increasing sex drive. So progesterone is an interesting component for men too, because you do have a little bit of progesterone, just a little bit, but some guys are virtually at zero. Vitamin D is also super important. Vitamin D, and never forget, vitamin D3 goes with K2, and then the magnesium has to be present, okay? And I really recommend you guys measure it, and sit with a health professional that understands these things and can measure these things. So testosterone, vitamin D3, K2, progesterone levels, magnesium. It's very hard to get somebody to sleep if they don't have those optimized, okay? In a bioidentical fashion, by the way. When I say testosterone and so forth, all your hormones, I'm always talking about bioidentical hormones, okay? And important you understand that these numbers in your blood work, et cetera, need to be in range, but perhaps towards the not in range but lower limit, in range but optimal, right? You don't want your bank account to be in range at the lower limit. You want it to be optimal, right? So, and I know this will not resonate well with many health professionals listening to this. Oh, it's in range, it's fine. Hey, when you're developing as a child into an adult, etc., all you feel good. Those are the best years of your life, technically, on if you ask most people on how they're feeling. Maybe those numbers at those ranges were really good for us and we felt great. And then we can make an argument that we should sustain those levels. Oh, but it's not natural. What you're doing is interfering with those numbers. You want to know what's not natural? The world you live in. Go listen to another lecture that we have on toxicity, environmental toxins, and things that are poisoning you on a day-to-day. That's why you're not sustaining the numbers that you as an adolescent, young adult, etc., had in your blood before. What's not natural is the world you live in. So that's why you need to supplement, and that's why you need to take heed and adjust yourself biologically. Very, very important. So, and let's distinguish the difference between pharmacological strategies and biological strategies for sleep. With pharmacological strategies, yeah, you get to sleep, but you don't fix your sleep. Or, for example, with alcohol or other medications like that, you won't really fix your sleep. Because what's a good way to measure good, restful, restorative sleep? Yeah, maybe some of you guys know what a Whoop is. I'm wearing a Whoop, so yeah, obviously I like to measure my sleep. But a proper way that we could measure sleep is putting, for example, doing an EEG on a person. So an electroencephalogram. What does that mean? Encephalo means brain, right? So an electrical study to the brain, right? Like an electrocardiogram, an EKG. Well, you have an EEG, right? And that studies waves. Well, the same way your heart has that wave that we study, and that is an indicator of heart health, etc. Same thing with your brain. It's just not as popular as an EKG. You don't hear it thrown around as much, that term EEG, but that studies what kind of brain waves your brain is. If all the way from if somebody has epilepsy, all the way to different issues that the person can have in regards to their brain, you use an EEG to study that. Okay, so. Not for masses and things like that, by the way, guys. Like, I don't want to get too technical, but then you need imaging, like if you're talking about masses, like MRIs and so forth, because I don't want people to get the wrong idea. That right there, the EEG is really for studying brainwave patterns, okay? Now, when you're sleeping, supposedly you want to hit delta wave sleep. That's the lowest level brainwave, okay? You want to hit delta sleep. That's where you're really restorative, etc. You don't stay in delta the full time. kind of get out of delta, go back into delta, REM, etc. And then, but you get out of REM, which stands for rapid eye movement, right? That's what's called REM. REM stand, when you're looking at somebody and their eyes are moving real fast, that's not delta. They're not in delta sleep. They're in REM sleep. So then you go back into delta, etc. But here's the thing: when you take a lot of these pharmaceuticals, they won't let you get into REM and delta. So that's why sleep is longer. The person will sleep for a few hours, but they're not restored. It's not deep, restful sleep. So I don't know about you guys, but in my book, I rather compress my sleep and sleep deeper, especially as a businessman, etc. I need my time to be very productive. And when I'm awake, I need to be awake. And when I'm off, I need to be off. And that's a problem that we have, especially here in America nowadays. When you're on, you're not really on. When you're off, you're not really off. And then what do? We use stimulants to get on, and we use downers to try to get ourselves off. And we live somewhere here in the middle of those brain waves, right? Because what's the opposite of delta? Well, it's gamma. You want to be in full awareness, super conscious of what's going on. So when you get out of work and you go from work to home, and you're just driving, then all of a sudden, oh, I'm home. How did I get here? You definitely were not in gamma, okay? Which is crazy, how well we can operate things when we're not in gamma. And to tell you the truth, most of the time, you're not fully conscious during your day. And that's when you're in gamma. So you have the conscious and the subconscious mind. I'm not going to get into that today, but that's why the subconscious mind, lots of times is he's working in the background. And quite frankly, you're reacting to things, reasoning to, having your reasonings, etc. Just what's in your subconscious programming. And that's another lecture for another time, but what's in your subconscious programming? Because it's pretty easy to program your subconscious mind, but to program your subconscious mind is not when you're in gamma, it's when you're in alpha. And particularly, I don't practice alpha. I don't do anything that puts my brain in alpha brainwaves. That's when you're hypnotic, etc. That's when you go into hypnosis and so forth. I personally don't practice that because I don't want my subconscious mind to be programmed without my authority. I protect it. It's my subconscious mind. Okay, so, but that's a conversation for another time. But like I said, I want to be in gamma. I don't want to be in alpha. And I want to be in delta or hit delta when I fall asleep. So when you're using a lot of these substances, right, to fall asleep, you're not hitting that delta sleep. Okay, you're somewhere around theta, etc. Maybe hitting REM sometimes, but you're not hitting that delta, and you're spending more time in bed. That's why, for example, if you ask somebody that drinks a lot and they're heavy drinkers, they'll sleep for a really long amount of time, but they're always tired. And then sometimes you'll meet a person like me, and I get asked this all the time. Dr. D, how do you have so much energy? Dr. D, what are you taking? And I can tell sometimes I'll tell people, they straight out don't believe me. And sometimes, I feel a little bad because, I've been in that position where I'm like, wow, how does that person have energy to do this, and this before? And if you've seen another lecture that I have before talking about how I came about all this, I was being diagnosed with depression. You guys can watch that lecture later. I definitely can relate to feeling tired, not sleeping well, etc. So this has happened to me before, but now I'm living the life. I feel great. I have long days with deep restful sleep, and I sleep about 6 hours, 7 hours every night, and I feel great. Okay, and if you talk to people that say they sleep 5 hours and it's fully true restful sleep, genetically there's very few people on earth that can do that. So there are some people that can sleep 5 hours and be great, and truthfully, but genetically there's very few people on earth that can do that. So important things are, for us to fix sleep, it's important to get our micronutrients correct. And it's like, wait, Dr. D, you said something like this on another lecture. Yeah, because the system, you fix the chemistry of the body, you fix the physiology of the body. So what I always advocate and defend is nutrient therapy and biological therapies. And yes, pharmaceutical therapies have their place, but sometimes it can be used as a small crutch for a short period of time, if need be, especially in acute medicine, etc. But I'm in the business of helping people fix what's broken. Okay. So, um, another important thing to understand is if you're taking medications that help increase GABA or agonize, turn on GABA receptors in your brain, so wouldn't it behoove us to actually question what are your GABA levels? What are the levels of GABA in your brain? What are the levels of serotonin in your brain? Those are inhibitory neurotransmitters, right? Serotonin, GABA. I have another lecture on this. And then you have your excitatory neurotransmitters, your dopamine and adrenalines or norepinephrine, epinephrine. And that's why you drink the caffeine and whatever, and perhaps even stimulants, etc. But you're not living a real life. You're not living a life of true energy and true restfulness. And it will bite you, you know where, sooner or later, even if that means taking off a few years of your life. And I'm not kidding with this. These things that you're one can be putting in one's body really hurt us in the long term. However, if we fix the chemistry of the body and then the body starts operating as it should, like any system, you fix the fundamental units of any system, that system will start to operate as it should, correct? And will be better, you'll see better output of that system. So you'll have a better output as a human living this life. Your human experience will be better, okay? So going back to GABA, it's also important that perhaps you measure the amount of neurotransmitters that are in your brain, right? So understanding the levels of GABA that are in your brain are very, very important. So something that we tend to see a lot is people come in with sleep disturbances or sleep problems, and the levels of GABA in their brain are usually off, very low, very, very low. And I'm talking about like should be a minimum of maybe the range goes from about 600 to 11, 1200 optimal. Okay, and this is a saliva study, it's not a blood study. And sometimes we'll see people in the 40s, 50s, less than 100. And obviously these people will have a stronger yearning to reach for alcohol, will have a stronger dependency on these sleep medications, etc. But then when you start to address these things little by little, the body then starts to produce what it needs to produce. It starts to produce the chemistry to get you to sleep. Now, I always like going on a peptide tangent. You guys know I like peptides. There's a wonderful peptide that can be used to help people sleep as well. It's called DSIP. I really like this peptide. It actually stands for Delta Sleep Inducing Peptide. Wonderful peptide. It's a GABA agonist and a glutamate agonist. So, and I know you guys are saying, like, wait, this sounds like the pharmacological stuff that you said before. But remember, it's a peptide. So it's in your brain. It's been discovered over 40 years ago and heavily studied for over 40 years, so pretty long time. It's a small little protein, very tiny protein. Off the top of my head, I think it has around 5 to 9 amino acids. It's very, very small. Also, really has really good anti-inflammatory activity and even anti-oncological activity. So it helps with inhibiting cancers, etc. And even helps stimulate testosterone via LH for people that have low levels of testosterone. Wonderful little darn peptide. Really, really like that peptide. Works very well. I use it many times to hack my sleep, so to make sure I go into deeper sleep, because here's the thing, if I can have really good quality sleep and in a shorter amount of time, how much more will I accomplish? You know, for those of you that are waking up in the morning and you're dead, and I've been there before, and it's like, oh my God, how am I going to get through this day? Do you have creativity? No, you definitely don't have energy. You definitely, somebody tells you something can't be done, and you'll be like, you'll be way less resilient, way less resourceful. Your resourcefulness goes out the window. Somebody's like, oh, this can't be done. You're like, oh, okay, sure. And you're like, Doc, you're exaggerating. No, no, I'm not. Because here's the thing, when you feel hampered because your energy levels are low and you're just tired and you can't function, then you go to sleep and you start getting this ultimate frustration that never goes away, right? So it's important to understand how to optimize your sleep. Your sleep is very important. And now let me add in some other things that I really like for sleep. For example, theanine. which is an amino acid that your brain processes when you fall asleep. I actually take it at night to sleep as well. And I don't need to, but again, I don't have sleep issues, obviously, because the basics of my biology are addressed. And when I say basics, I'm talking about that, what I said in the beginning, the vitamin D3, the K2, the magnesium, the testosterone. Every once in a while, I'll do a little bit of progesterone depending on my levels. And that really helps me to sleep, right? But then there's things I like to hack my sleep with some theanine. I do pretty high dose magnesium every day. I take about a gram every day of magnesium. I split the dose beginning and end of the day. Actually, in the day, I don't take any stimulants. I start my day with things that kind of calm me down, get me focused and ready to go, like magnesium. I start my day with GABA as well. So you could take GABA in the morning. Obviously, if you're not sleeping well and you take GABA, it might throw you off a little bit. But for example, somebody that wakes up with a lot of energy, you could take a little bit, or at least for me, I take a little bit of GABA and some magnesium. But so theanine is another great one. And then melatonin. Melatonin, I know it's been overplayed so much, but melatonin is really, really important. And it's processed in the pineal gland. The serotonin, you have serotonin during the day in that pineal gland, and then at night you have the melatonin. And melatonin is even, being dubbed as, anti-cancer, etc. Protects you a lot um, from some pretty strong disease processes, right? And here's the thing, for serotonin to be released versus melatonin and the activation of the pineal gland, and let's talk a little bit about that now. The last thing you want to do is go open a refrigerator in the middle of the night. Because when your pineal gland sees that fluorescent light right in front of its face, it's going to go, ah, and it's going to switch mechanisms. And you want to continue to release that melatonin. Do not go opening refrigerators, etc., in the middle of the night. It disrupts your sleep. Oh, I can get back to sleep, but it's not proper sleep quality. I'm telling you, sometimes I wake up thirsty, etc. I'm like, man, and I don't go open that refrigerator. It throws your sleep off. Even if you go back to sleep, and especially if you're using pharmaceuticals to sleep, yeah, of course you're going to go back to sleep, but it's not that deep, restful, restorative sleep. Okay. So that's why there's blue light glasses. So I definitely recommend people also, if you're having a hard time, not only doing that, talking a little bit about, this is all sleep hygiene, right? Get yourself some blue light blocking glasses. If you have Apple products at home, they have this wonderful feature where you can actually change them even from a certain time of the day to change I won't say block, but I guess change that blue light, which is really, really cool. I noticed, like, I will get really sleepy if I change that light, like, and especially with everything I'm doing, I'm looking at the phone. I don't last 2 minutes looking at the phone. I'm like, oh my God, I'm dead sleepy. Okay, so, and please don't sleep with your phone just next to you, because the EMF, etc. That's another lecture for another day. But go put the phone away. Put the phone away from you. If you can, shut off the Wi-Fi, everything. But another day, another lecture. But so when you're talking about deep restful sleep, important to understand the pineal gland, and you don't want that pineal gland seeing artificial lights, etc. That's why the world, we have sunlight, and that's why we have darkness. I mean, it's just a huge clue out there, right? You need to be in the darkness for a little bit of time to have that good quality sleep. Okay, and then there's other things you guys could do, things that most people already know. Keep your room cool. Even perhaps some weight over you. Some of those heavy blankets, really cool too, to help you sleep. But I'm here more to help you guys on the biochemical side, etc. And then one last thing that I love for sleep and works really darn well is, here's the thing: your body releases hormones, right? One hormone that's really important also for you to sleep and have deep, restful sleep: growth hormone. Growth hormone helps a lot with sleep, helps a lot with recovery. And like, Jesus, it helps a lot with recovery. So anything that helps you, these growth hormone secretagogues, like certain peptides, that will help you to secrete your own growth hormone. And perhaps those are, discuss this with your doctor, but perhaps that's a better way to start with growth hormone secretagogues. where your body's releasing its own growth hormone. And it helps with repair so much, right? Growth hormone also, so growth hormones secreted from your pituitary gland, not pineal gland. We spoke about pineal gland a few minutes ago. Pituitary gland. Your pituitary then releases the growth hormone, which a lot of it goes to the liver, and then your liver then, well, most of it goes to the liver. There's some receptors in cartilage, but most of it's going to the liver. And then your liver is going to release IGF-1. IGF-1 is the one that actually goes throughout the body and produces muscle, restores hair, skin, nails, really good for this, peripheral neuropathies and things like that. So I mean, wonderful, just wonderful. And you actually, for you to measure your levels of growth hormone, you can't measure growth hormone in the blood. It's pulsatile, etc. So for you to measure the growth hormone, you would actually use IGF-1. So you measure IGF-1 in the blood or IGF-1 BP3, right? Which those help to measure, help to understand your levels of growth hormone. So optimizing your levels of growth hormone, which I do personally, helps you to have really deep restorative sleep, okay? So when you start to put all these things together, then you'll start to notice how your sleep is starting to improve, okay? And sleep is like weight loss. For some people, they just shed that weight real fast, etc. But some people, it takes more time and you'll hit certain plateaus. And then I always say sleep and weight loss go together. They take some time to fix, okay? Especially when there's years of bad sleep hygiene, etc. So understand the difference between good quality sleep, right? True good quality sleep where your biochemistry is actually allowing you to sleep and then you're actually producing the physiology and psychology that you want, versus pharmaceutical strategies that, yeah, you'll sleep as well, but you're not getting deep, restful, restorative sleep. And it's definitely not a strategy that you want to practice the rest of your life. And understand that sleep is impacting your health, it's impacting your longevity, and you can't live without sleep. And I know everybody's like, yeah, I know that. No, but I'm talking about deep quality sleep. And if you're a business owner, entrepreneur, athlete, or just a high level performance individual, you can't afford not to be sleeping right. And if I may, you should hack your sleep. You should try to sleep the best quality sleep, check your sleep in the least amount of time. Okay? Nothing like 3-4 hours and so forth. No, that's not gonna, no. You'll catch me yawning and tired, etc. if I sleep 3-4 hours, which that's not happening. And I don't buy all this whole like, go hard, go get it, like motivational stuff. Trust me, I'm a big motivational guy. But no, I need to sleep. No sleep, all these slogans. No, you need to sleep, buddy. I was once victim of that, let's say, especially in my years in medical school, and sleep is for wimps, etc. In medicine, sleeping, especially in residency and so forth, it's seen as like, oh, you don't need sleep. No, I don't agree with that. You need sleep, but I'm talking about hacking your sleep, a good 6-7 hours of like, wow, I feel great. I'm restored and I'm having great days. I'm not taking naps. I'm not eating, and in the middle of the afternoon, I feel exhausted, which in that case, what that happens with a lot of people, that sometimes is insulin resistance. And that's a lecture for another day, where the person is eating, and after they eat, especially at lunch, they're done. They feel super sleepy after food. If you feel particularly sleepy after food, talk to your doctor, check that insulin after you're eating, because more than likely you're having an insulin spike, or get yourself, and it was here just a minute, oh, it's right here. Get yourself a little sugar sensor, right? I'm about actually to put this thing on. So there's a bunch of them out there. And I'm gonna slap that one on. I'm just trying to figure out how I'm gonna put it on, because I do jujitsu and I don't want it to fly off while I'm doing jujitsu. So, but that's why I haven't actually, I was supposed to have it on already, but point is, if you're having those insulin spikes, you're gonna feel super sleepy, crazy sleepy, and it's also a sign of metabolic disturbance in you. So yeah, and those people particularly, this does not get addressed by mainstream medicine at all. But that's that pancreas releasing a lot of insulin, and there's amazing things you could do to help that pancreas with alpha lipoic acid, berberine, IGF-1. Also, IGF-1 literally stands for insulin-like growth factor 1. It has about 10% the strength of insulin, so it helps the pancreas with the insulin, right? And ultimately, if you don't fix that, it can turn into well, that's early signs of diabetes. That's a very early signs of you developing diabetes in the future. So educate yourself, because you know what's ultimately most important for you to live the life of your dreams. You need information. You need to educate yourselves. And guys, I do this with all love and heart, just to really get you guys optimal. You know, I'm in this road with you, and I literally designed these lectures. I designed what we do. I designed Biohacks, our company, as the ultimate service for me. And I am just fueled for my passion to help others, and my passion for the game of health, the passion of high performance, and just listen, I want to live to 150 and have optimal health and feel great. All right. And on it, if I can, I'm bringing this to my family and bringing this to you guys, my extended family. So love you all. Thanks for coming through today. Peace, Dr. D.